The world today is advancing faster than anyone can keep up. New cars, new AI, new screaming streamer. The earth is burning, the population's growing, and the divides are showing. And sometimes it feels like doomsday might as well be right around the corner. Like each day we inch further and further towards the world ending. But what if I told you it already did? The world you live in is not the world you think it is. Secret planets, government cover-ups, ancient alien civilizations. The world ended exactly when everyone thought it would. December 21st, 2012. What happened? How did we meet our fiery demise? Well, for that story, we'll have to start at the start of the world. According to the Maya. The ancient Maya were an indigenous culture from the southern Mexico-Guatemala region. They believed that there were two human races before this one, both of which were destroyed by the gods because they were made out of like mud or something and couldn't worship them.
Good riddance. Which
is a lesson y'all can learn. You better like and subscribe, you son of a bitch. The Maya believed that humans came into existence in 3114 BC. As anyone who's played Green Hell knows, you gotta be smart to live in the jungle. And smart they were. The ancient Maya spent their time building massive pyramids and cities with no metal tools, developing math and science, sacrificing people, and most importantly, creating a calendar. The most complex ever invented, in fact. Now, I'm not gonna pretend like I know how to read this thing, so let me just give you the gist. The Mayan long count calendar started when the world began, and is 13 baktuns long, each baktun being 144,000 days. Seems excessive, don't ask me why. This means that after thousands of years, the calendar would officially end on December 21st, 2012, the winter solstice. The end of the world. But the Maya didn't think they had to worry about all that, and they were right, because like that girl I was talking to last night at the bar, some Italian guy came around and ruined everything. Fast forward a bit to the 2000s. After deciphering Mayan writing, people had known about the final day for a while. As the day grew nearer and nearer, people grew more and more anxious. Theories that ancient civilizations were more advanced than we know had been bouncing around for a while, and with the calendar ending on such a specific date, people wondered if the Maya knew something we didn't. And while the date had been mentioned by a few historians and a couple pseudoscientists for a while, the general population wasn't too familiar with it. That was until a man named Roland Emmerich came along. He was a director known for world-ending blockbusters, and he wanted to make a big wave movie.
The Dutch
Big
angle.
waves.
Yeah.
Dope.
A Noah's Ark 2, if you will. There's just one problem. For all you heathens, at the end of Noah's Ark, God says, "Yes, no more big waves." Well, that's no good. So, Roland goes scouring for a new reason the world ends. Eventually, he finds a book known as Fingerprints of the Gods, which talks about the Mayan prediction for the world to end in 2012. Bingo. This leads to the 2009 movie 2012. It's a movie about 2012, released in 2009, you get it. And it was a box office hit. How does the world end in 2012, you may ask? Well, the Yellowstone supervolcano erupts, Los Angeles sinks into the sea, not soon enough if you ask me. Continents shift like checkers on a board, and big waves destroy everything except for Africa for some reason. The movie ends with all the rich people surviving and going to Africa on boats to start their new colonies, which is certainly a way to end a movie. And as Cody Hub put it, but I'm poor people. While the Mayan prediction was known about, this movie really pushed it into the cultural zeitgeist, with the only message of the movie being that the insane Alex Jones character was right all along and God hates us. And even if you hadn't seen the movie, you probably got scared by its marketing. Sony, the production company, had the brilliant idea of starting a stealth marketing campaign by setting up a government-style, legit-looking website called the Institute of Human Continuity, which talked about the end of the world, the Mayan prediction, offered to sell survival kits, and encouraged them to join a lottery that, if picked, would save their lives. And since it was taking it all very seriously, people believed it, which caused the actual government a lot of headaches, but we'll get to that later. Now everyone knew about 2012, and there was only a few years left to prepare. The idea stewed in the minds of people across the globe, and they wanted to know more. So that's when the most reliable, trustworthy, big-budget source of factual information stepped up to give people what they needed. The History Channel. History, along with a few others, started pumping out 2012 documentaries like there was literally no tomorrow. Every theory, every obscure Mayan fact, Every alien connection was laid bare. Interviewees all giving their own bleak predictions for the future. Science fiction authors were hopping on the trend, as well as an alarming number of scientists. For years, bookshelves were filled with grim predictions of things to come. How exactly did the Maya know the world was gonna end? So you know how people think the ancient Egyptians were helped by aliens to gain vast knowledge because ancient people were clearly too stupid to put rocks in a big pile? Well, just move all that over to the Americas and bam, ancient alien Maya theory. Now, this wasn't the first end of the world prediction. In fact, Harold Camping, a Christian radio host, had predicted it twice in 2011 alone. And you'd think that people would get the message at that point, but no, because this wasn't just some small sect of old radio Christians predicting the rapture. This one was internet driven, baby, which, as you'll soon find out, is a theme on this channel. At the time, a survey found that about 15% of people thought that the world was going to end in their lifetime, and 10% thought that the Mayan prediction meant the end, which doesn't sound like a lot, but remember, that is hundreds of millions of people. And yet how, you may ask, did so many people think the world is going to end? Well, nobody was really sure, but that didn't stop them from guessing. Everything from supervolcanoes and megaquakes to aliens and asteroids. There's too many to count, so here's a few of my favorites. A popular theory was that the magnetic poles would suddenly shift, or the world would start spinning backwards for no reason, causing mass natural disasters and other goofiness. Surprisingly, one of the most grounded of the theories, 7 out of 10. Some thought that either a massive solar flare would hit us, a gamma ray burst would snipe us, or a nearby star would go supernova, each cooking the planet like a rat in a KFC deep fryer. 8 out of 10. On the day of the solstice, the Earth and the Sun would align with the galactic center and rip us apart or something. Others claim that every planet in the solar system would align on that day and do something. Which is so hilariously untrue that these get a 7 out of 10. My personal favorite was that of the secret 9th planet. Back in 1995, a woman named Nancy Leader told people that a secret planet called Nibiru existed just outside of our solar system. She claimed to have a brain implant that lets her contact aliens from Zeta Reticuli, a star system that notably has no planets. It was believed that Nibiru was on a collision course with Earth, and on December 21st of 2012, it would suddenly crash into us, destroying the world. For whatever reason, this was actually a really popular theory, with a video recreation of it garnering millions of views on YouTube. Now, while this all does sound like something I'd come up with as a joke in Voices of the Void, shameless plug, funny enough, that year, an astronomer found evidence that there may actually be a 9th planet in our solar system, which didn't exactly quell any fears. 9 out of 10. One theory said that Psy, the South Korean singer, was actually one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, with his iconic dance symbolizing the horse. And when Gangnam Style hit 1 billion views on YouTube, the first video to ever do so, the world would end. And while this theory was made as a joke, I've seen enough K-pop stans to know they might be onto something. 10 out of 10. Some people didn't believe in all the doom and gloom theories though. These people mainly being the hippy-dippy, crystal, haven't showered in 2 weeks types, who thought that the world would undergo a mass change in consciousness and be reborn into a new spiritual age. Popular author and speaker on the matter, Daniel Pinchbeck, wrote, "Our current socioeconomic system will suffer a drastic and irrevocable collapse." Apparently, he believed that after the 2012 event, people would develop psychic superpowers that help them defeat global warming and achieve perfect communism.
Just crush capitalism.
But only people who had reached a supramental consciousness, or in other words, fried their brains on experimental drugs. But like, come on, man, there's no way you thought the Maya predicted all that. Just like some Mayan priest cutting out some dude's heart like, "Ah yes, this proves that in 5,000 years, the United States-led world order will collapse in favor of environmental psychic communism. Hooray!" But while the world was ending, business was booming. Sales of bunkers spiked, and a man in China sold his own custom survival pods for around $1 million, apparently selling a few dozen of them. Also in China, a group of about 1,000 Christian cult members were running around spreading panic about the end and telling people to overthrow the government. That went about as well as you'd expect. But it did seem the fear had gone global. The Prime Minister of Australia took to the web to reassure her people in this rousing speech.
The world is about to end. Whether the final blow comes from flesh-eating zombies, demonic hell beasts, or from the total triumph of K-pop, I will always fight for you to the very end.
Mexico, the home of many Mayan ruins, planned on having 52 million visitors in the south alone, far above the national yearly average. One study found that around 13 million Russians thought the world was going to end, leading Putin to publicly announce that the world still had another 4 billion years ahead of it. And coming from one of like 4 dudes who could end the world right now if someone didn't put enough vodka in his coffee, that's pretty reassuring. But not to everyone. NASA began having 200 to 300 people contacting them per day, some accusing them of covering up the truth, others asking if they should unalive their pets, their kids, or themselves. And eventually, the world only had a few weeks left, so some started to take matters into their own hands. They turned to the only thing that could save them now: aliens. People began to flock to certain locations said to have supernatural abilities in hopes that it would save them. These largely being the hippie type people again. Some of these New Age mystics went to a pyramid-shaped mountain in Serbia, which they believed was made by aliens thousands of years ago. It was thought that when the final day came, the mountain would open up, projecting a force field saving everything in its vicinity. Serbia wins again, baby! Turkish town of Serince, which I definitely pronounced right, was actually excited to be one of these sacred safe places, with vendors looking forward to the increased doomsday sales. But no area was more sought after than the French mountain village of Bugarac. The peak, sometimes known as the Upside Down Mountain, has been a spiritual center for hippies and other various cretins for decades. It's believed that the area has a strong spiritual power, but not only that, aliens live inside the mountain and are using it as a sort of cosmic garage for their UFOs. They believe that on the final day, the aliens would finally come out of the mountain and save everyone in the town because they were just really nice guys, I guess. I don't know. Mystics and media began flocking to the town, to the point where the mayor had to threaten to call the army to keep things in control. The French parliament issued a warning that certain sects of spiritual cults in the country might be planning mass Minecrafting of themselves on Doomsday. Strange figures in all white robes were seen wandering the woods of the town and doing strange rituals, which would look really bad if it was across the pond. People were doing whatever possible to prepare for the end. Survival bunkers, spirit rituals, alien saviors, and even if people didn't think the world was gonna end, they'd be lying to themselves if they said they weren't at least a little nervous. Everyone held their breath until finally the prophesized day of destiny came. But just like in 2011, 2000, 1995, and every prophesized day before all of those, the biggest end of the world prediction came and went. Some people were shocked, most people were relieved, and other people never cared to begin with. Because despite how much we would have liked it to, the world did not end in 2012. Leaving us with the question, how did this even happen? How did an ancient prophecy lead to such worldwide panic? Well, you see, that's just the thing. I haven't exactly told you the whole truth. Some astute viewers may have noticed that out of all the theories I listed, I never mentioned how the Maya thought the world was gonna end. And there's a good reason for that. There's just one eensy-teensy little problem with the Mayan prophecy of the end of the world. That being, it doesn't exist. The prophecy that caused the whole world to freak out didn't even exist. It was just the end of their calendar. The Maya didn't even really do prophecies like that. The date is only even mentioned twice by the Maya, one of which said that a god would come back to Earth and do a little ritual or something, but even this is believed to be a mistranslation. Notably, neither of these mentions included end of the world predictions. Ironically, the few times the Maya did prophesize about things were times way beyond 2012. So if they thought the world was going to end in 2012, why would they prophesize about events past 2012? Were they stupid? And that's what a lot of the conspiracy theories were kind of based around. The thought that the Maya were so smart and advanced that they knew about the center of the galaxy, secret planets, and the exact end date of the world, and yet too dumb to know about the 5 other continents on their planet and Spanish people existing. But the ancient Maya weren't dumb. They just made a calendar. And while yes, the ancient Mayan calendar did end, it actually did this really funny thing. It started again. You know, like a calendar. Like going from December to January. This entire panic was the equivalent of some guy thinking that all of time stops when his calendar runs out of pages. And yet, of course, if anyone had stopped to listen to any real researchers or scientists, they would have known this. Over the course of the hysteria, there were plenty of well-informed people trying to get everyone to calm down. NASA released a video called Why the World Didn't End Yesterday, a video obviously meant for the day after the solstice, 2 weeks early because people people were so freaked out. Hell, even if you didn't want to listen to all those government-funded Poindexters, you know who you could have asked? Oh, I don't know. The Maya, who still exist, by the way. Down in Mexico and Guatemala, ancient Mayan sites were filled with Maya and other people celebrating their heritage. Some celebrated, others protested the commercialization, but most didn't care because they knew the world was not going to end. When you get right down to it, it seemed like the whole fad was just fear-mongering by pseudoscientists trying to make a quick buck. Fingerprints of the Gods, the book that Emmerich used as inspiration, is basically the pseudoscientist Bible.
Mayas were timekeepers above and beyond all other things. Keeping up with time was magic, it was power to the Mayans.
Oh boy, 3 a.m.
I mean, come on, if Nibiru was going to crash into Earth, people would be able to, you know, look up and see a giant planet hurtling towards them. Despite how cool it sounds, the ancient Maya were not some advanced alien civilization. And in the time since, basically all 2012 media has been scraped from the internet in embarrassment. So the question isn't really how this happened, but why? Which I think is far more important because it sums up a lot of the feelings of the 2000s. End of the world prophecies were actually pretty common back in the day. A few in the 90s, Y2K, 2 in 2011 alone, and yet after 2012, there really haven't been any, which was probably due to how fast the world was changing at the time. Climate change was just starting to be taken seriously. America was trying its hand at being the world police. Economic uncertainty had just rocked the globe. The internet, for the first time, gave a loud voice to these once quiet crazies. The transition from the Cold War to the internet age was an extreme shift that to many people probably felt like an unpredictable chain reaction that could be leading us somewhere bad, like the end of history. I mean, we saw it in how popular zombie apocalypse media was back in the day. And I mean, apocalypse media was really, really popular.
Gentlemen, lock and load.
Everyone just loved talking about the end. Then after 2012, people were just kinda over it. Not to mention, it wouldn't take very long for us to get a taste of the apocalypse and people to realize that it isn't actually that fun. And yet, some people to this day believe that the world did end in 2012. Proponents of this theory believe that life only seems to be continuing because we're in a simulation or a new dimension. This would explain things like the Mandela effect and why nothing's really felt right since 2012. You know what I mean? Simulation theory has been pretty popular for some time now. And you know what? Power to you. For whatever reason, people yearn to live at the end. Makes us feel that little bit more special, you know? There have been countless theories on the end of the world, and I'm sure there's going to be countless more in the future. So when the next one rolls around, don't get swindled by the grifter. Become the grifter. Spread the theory around as much as possible, write a few books, and get into the bunker selling business. The money will print itself, baby.